Good evening. Something has been taking place at these meetings that brings up a little unexpected situation. As I have told you many times, I am not a lecturer and do not know how to lecture, but I do know and have learned in my experience certain principles of life, and I not only love to present them and talk about them, but seem to keep busy at it. But the difficulty that comes is this, that not being a lecturer, the work that I do is more or less teaching. And so as we go along, instead of just hearing lectures about something, we have an actual teaching of the principles of the something, with the result that we have already gone through subjects like treatment, the practical application of principles, and we have gone through the principles that constitute this work, and each time we get into deeper water. And the reason is that as meeting has followed meeting, those who have been here for all of them, or nearly all, have been enabled to follow along with a principle and are beginning to put them into practice, finding them to some extent practical, and of course preparing themselves for the next step, with the result that we are at the place tonight where it becomes necessary to talk about a principle of this work that is by far the deepest principle that has ever revealed itself to me in the work. There's no way to avoid it. And the only desire that there might be for avoiding it is the fact that some who have not been here for all of this work may not understand what we're talking about, and thereby may not benefit by it. But I have to forget that for this evening to bring up this principle, because it fits right in here. It is natural to follow up where we were Sunday, and to clarify it so that you can put it into practice in the right manner and then see where it leads. Now, in order for you to grasp this point, it is going to be necessary that you make yourself receptive in the way that should be done whenever you meditate. Now, let me explain that. I'm going to ask you to look over toward my left. And I am raising my left hand. And you are looking at it. And the point that I want to bring to your attention is this, that in looking at it and in seeing it, you are not using your eyes. You are not straining. You are not reaching out as if it were up to you or to your eyes to see. You are relaxed and letting the image strike you. You are not tensing your eyes as if to see. As a matter of fact, the more relaxed your eyes are, the better you will see. Any effort to reach forward and strain will, if anything, blur the image that's held up before you. In the same way, you look to the right, and again, you do not have to make a conscious effort to see. All you have to do is keep your eyes open, and the image will hit upon your eyes. Now then, that is the way I would like you to listen. Have no strain. Do not open your ears as if they had to do some work. And do not strain up here. Do not crease this forehead. Do not lean forward to strain that way. Sit back, relaxed, and let the vibrations hit upon your ear so that you are not making an effort to hear. Now, the reason for it is this. What I say is not going to make sense from any human standpoint. And it isn't going to be reasonable, so that there's no use trying to think it through or reason it through. What I am going to say to you this evening has to be discerned with an inner vision. Something within you must respond. It isn't something that your eyesight can give you or your ears can give you. It is something within you that says yes or no. It is something within you that says right or wrong. And that isn't your reasoning mind. That is an inner faculty, a spiritual faculty, a soul faculty. Now, as we develop that soul faculty, we gain the ability to hear the still small voice. You never hear it with your ear, even though sometimes it is an audible sound, and you would think that you're hearing with your ear. A student writes me today that she awakened out of her sleep hearing the telephone bell ring, but it rang 30 minutes. But actually there was no telephone ringing outside. It was something within her own being alerting her. Now, everyone who has ever attained any mystical sense, that is, any sense of the Father within, has done so only because of an ability to hear that which cannot be heard, or see that which cannot be seen, or know that which cannot be known. And that sounds like foolishness, but it isn't. Remember, the things of God are foolishness with man, but so are the things of man foolishness with God. You only have to witness one angle of that to know how true it is. Watch how busy the world is in accumulating what it calls fortunes, and then watch how each one has to check it at the probate court as they pass out. And you know how foolish in the sight of God it must be, these poor mortals scrambling for their whatever it is that they're going to check at the probate court. Now you see, there is an inner wisdom, there is an inner vision, there is an inner discernment that enables you to respond to the spiritual impulse, the impulse of God or the Christ. I have illustrated that before in this manner. When the Master rose from the tomb, although he had preached to the multitudes, although he had healed multitudes and fed multitudes, according to all the records, only about 500 people witnessed the risen Christ. We, of course, like to feel that if we had been there, we would have surely witnessed it. And the chances are we very surely would not have, because out of those multitudes, only 500, and those 500 were those of the keenest spiritual vision. And so it is with us today. The people of spiritual vision behold something that others do not see. It is like the subject of prayer that we have been taking up, and in which it was brought out that there is no use praying to God for anything at all. Any prayer to God for anything would be a sin, for the simple reason that to acknowledge that God had anything to give and was withholding it for our prayer would be dishonoring God. And so we come to a higher concept of prayer than making Santa Claus out of God and expecting dear old Santa Claus, because we're good, is going to reward us, or perhaps if we're bad, he'll first forgive us and then reward us. Now, one of the principles, and as I said before, it is probably one of the deepest, if not the deepest, and it is a principle that is necessary in spiritual living and spiritual healing, is based on a scriptural quotation, "Judge not after appearances." Now, that is very often misunderstood. Very often people believe that that means don't judge evil, but rather judge good. Don't judge evil from appearances, but it's all right to judge good. It doesn't mean that at all. The Master rebuked that when he was called the good Master. Why callest thou me good? There is but one good, the Father in heaven. So even to have turned to him and judged that he was good was erroneous. And so in this principle, we cannot judge good any more than we can judge evil. In other words, how by appearances can we judge anywise? The healthiest looking person in the world very often drops dead of heart disease the next minute. And then it is said, why, no one ever knew that he was suffering from heart trouble. No, he may not have known it himself. And there are other illustrations to show that we can be deceived by appearances. Now watch this, because here is the point. The point is that you are neither good nor evil. You are neither rich nor poor. You are neither well nor sick. And the reason is this: God is infinite, and therefore only God is. And that leaves out any degree of comparison. That is why in all spiritual teaching it is said that you must rise above the pairs of opposites. You must rise above the pairs of opposites to where there is neither good nor evil, young nor old, alive nor dead, sick nor well, rich nor poor, but to where there is only one and that one is God. In other words, it has given us elsewhere that in this higher consciousness there is neither male nor female. Remember that. We are told that at one point of highest consciousness, and we will never attain heaven until we reach that, we must understand that the inside of the platter and the outside of the platter are the same. Neither inside nor outside, but just platter. And so it is that in the highest spiritual consciousness, you do not have male or female, nor do you have good nor evil, nor do you have wealth nor poverty. You have one, and that one is God, infinite, immortal, eternal, harmonious, perfect, joyous, free, spiritually so. That is why also in the infinite way we say and teach, you can never get free from anything or from anybody, nor can you ever get free from any condition. In spiritual truth, you can find your freedom in Christ. You can find your freedom in truth. You can find your freedom in spirit, but never can you find your freedom from. Why? Because spiritual being isn't involved in anything. One of the factors that has helped us very, very much in this work of human relationships, sometimes family relationships, sometimes business relationships, sometimes this capital and labor relationships. The one thing, the principle that has stood up for us throughout all of this has been this one, that there is neither right on the side of capital or labor, that there is neither right on the side of husband or wife or parent or child. The only right is in God, and by standing on that truth, harmony begins to appear wherever there is a degree of receptivity to it. It doesn't mean that you will heal everybody or make everybody happy. It only means that wherever there is a degree of receptivity, by being one with God, you are the majority. And so in every instance where you can rise above judging whether the union is right or capital is right, or whether the wife is right or the husband is right, or the parent or the child, and hold to the fact that none of these can be right, only God can be right. Only God can be true. But since God is infinite, then the rightness of God is omnipresent where you are. And then you watch the miracles happen there. You have not judged either for good or for evil. Well, you know as well as I do that the person who may be the best today or the most moral can fall from the human standard of goodness or morality in any given moment. There's no use judging just because they may conform to some pattern at this moment. The person who is well or the person who is rich, there's no use declaring that they are, because they may make a liar of you tomorrow. But by not judging by appearances, but holding to righteous judgment, that God is the infinite one, in that way you bring harmony out into this experience. It has been the experience of every mystic who has attained conscious union with God, even if they attained it only in moments of meditation, that they rose above all sense of right and wrong, good and bad, male or female, to where there was just a state of being. There was just this sense of being, but not being somebody or being something. just being, and usually infinite being, because they weren't just being sitting in a chair. Sometimes they were being out on the ocean or up in a tree. At least there was that sense of omnipresence when they had risen above this limited, finite sense of self. Now, ordinarily in the metaphysical world, when a practitioner is presented with a problem by a student or a patient, whether it be physical, mental, moral, financial, instinctively and unconsciously there is a desire to correct the wrong and make it right. In other words, if they're not breathing properly, it's to see them breathe properly. If they have a fever, it's to reduce their temperature to normal. If they're not having elimination, it's to bring about elimination. All of these things of changing the evil into a good. That is not the mode or the method in our work. Our work takes no cognizance of normalcy, of what we call human normalcy. We go right to the front and say, no, we won't even call Jesus good. We won't even say that Jesus was healthy or that Jesus is alive. No, no, no. We will go right through the appearance and say there is but one good. Good in health, good in wealth, good in harmony, good in all this, and that one is God. God being infinite, God being omnipresent, God being the all in all. By our holding to that, harmony comes out in what we call the human picture. But only through a steadfast holding to the truth of God's allness, not of your goodness, and not of your good health or good wealth or good morals, but only holding to God's allness and ignoring the appearances of good and evil, does the healing work come about that results in what we call improved humanhood. A sick person becomes well, unemployed person becomes employed, the immoral person becomes moral, and so forth and so on. But the moment that you would come down to judging by appearances, you lose your whole spiritual power. That, of course, was given to me in proof back in 1932 and 1933, I guess, 1931 and 2 or 32 and 3, when I was working in the prisons in the East. And when I made the mistake at first in going into the prison to accept the appearance of sin-filled thought and then trying to do something about it. But after I malpracticed myself good and proper and had myself so flustered that I wasn't able to do the job I was supposed to do, then only the realization dawned on me, this is all wrong. If it is true that God is infinite being, I am not here to reform sinners. I am here to reveal the infinity of God's being where these other appearances exist. And the result was that when my work started, we had only about 11 men coming to our work. In a few months, we were up to 66. At the end of 2 years, we had 200, and we had taught 15 of the prisoners healing work, and they were doing healing work inside the prison. Now, we're very close to doing something like that here. We've already got boys studying healing work in the prison here and acknowledging the benefit that this work has been to them. Why? Because we do not go there in the sense of looking out at sinners and hoping to do something to them or for them. That's been going on for thousands of years, telling people how bad they are and then trying to make them better. There is no way spiritually to accomplish that. The master secret was this: what did hinder you? In other words, what power is there to prevent you from picking up your bed and walking? There isn't any, since God is infinite power. Now, over and over in his teaching, you will find that he says, I can of my own self do nothing. If I speak of myself, I speak a lie. My doctrine is not mine that sent me. My doctrine is not mine, but his that sent me. And always the Father worketh, and I work hitherto. And always it was an example, it was a presenting of the great revelation that only God was doing this. There was no good me, and there was no spiritual me, and there was no Savior me. There was only God. I'm an instrument. The Father worketh, and I work hitherto. I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me, he doeth the works. Now, why callest thou me good? There is but one good, the Father in heaven. So the moment that we can take the attitude that whatever there is coursing through us, it is God, we will not be claiming personal good, but in not claiming personal good, we will never claim personal evil. And so it is. And here's where we come to the hardest part of it. It is one thing to say of myself, I am neither good nor evil, but God worketh in me, and whatever qualities there are, they're qualities of God. But you'd be surprised how difficult it is when you look out there and see some of the characters. That is where it becomes difficult, because we see two kinds. We see the evil ones and we see the very, very good ones, and we cannot help loving and admiring those good ones, and we cannot help condemning or criticizing or judging the evil ones, or at least knowing how they could be better. And you see, that is where it comes in. That a line must be drawn in our consciousness that enables us to break off the appearance so that we can look through it and say, I'm not interested in whether the appearance at the moment is good or evil, whether the fever is up or down, or the chills are up or down, or the pocketbook is up or down. I'm looking through to the fact that God alone is. And because God alone is, all is well. Now you see, that brings us back to that other part of the same principle. And if you catch this part, and tonight it ought to be really easy after all we've been through to catch it, you will find the entire nature of prayer changing for you. You will never again be guilty of a prayer that would tend to make a Santa Claus out of God. And that principle lies in the word is. Now remember, is and judge not are very much alike as principles, because in judge not, you look at any appearance, whatever its name or nature or claim, and ignore it, look through it, to the fact that only God is the reality. Well, it is very much so with the principle of is. Now, to understand the principle of is, you have to take the 23rd Psalm, because without it, you will not readily grasp that principle. The 23rd Psalm says, the Lord is my shepherd. And of course that's enough. If there weren't anything more in that psalm, that would be enough. Because that itself says to you, you don't have to reach out to God. You don't have to make contact with God. You don't have to win God's mercy or gain God's ear. Already the Lord is my shepherd. That which I would attempt through prayer or other means to achieve already is. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. I shall not want. Why? The Lord is my shepherd. There's no use now of trying to overcome lack. There is no use of trying to treat for supply. The only treatment is, thank you. The Lord is my shepherd. How can I want? He leadeth me. Not will, shall, ought to, and not I deserve to be led. But he leadeth me beside the still waters. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. Not only I don't have to coerce him, but as I have said here on the subject of prayer, once you get into this, you'll find a great truth. God is chasing us harder than we are chasing God. If only we could stop praying long enough to let God catch up to us, we would find that our needs would be met long before we even knew that we had need of it. But the thing is that we are so busy chasing God that we're too far ahead of him. Now, the one way to slow down is with the word is. The Lord is my shepherd. And now sit patiently and let that is catch up. Let that is come into expression or manifestation. Not only the Lord leadeth me beside, he leadeth me beside thee. So he maketh me to lie down in green pastures. Why, heretofore we have believed that it was necessary to win God's mercy, to gain God's goodness, to bribe God, to tithe for God, to promise to be good. And here all the time the 23rd Psalm assures us, the Lord is my shepherd. And not only that, but I don't have to get him to bring me to green pastures. He maketh me to lie down in them, even when I'm obstinate and try to stay out of his reach. Now, with this psalm, you gain more and more a realization of the great truth that harmony already is. The law of like begetting like is in operation. 2 times 2 is 4 is in operation. The law of music is in operation. Now, who would pray God for some law of music instead of opening themselves to the law of music and then utilizing it? Who would pray? Who prays for mathematics or for art? You open yourself to it, you find it's a principle, and you let it flow. But praying to God isn't going to do any good. The principle of mathematics, the principle of music, the principle of inventions, mechanics, it's all here. It's a matter of our opening consciousness and becoming receptive and responsive to everything that is already a part of our infinite divine consciousness. And so it is. Prayer, once you understand the principle of judge not and the principle of is, prayer becomes an opening of consciousness. It is as if somehow we gained the idea a long time ago that maybe we can fly through the air. And so we would sit down and not pray God, tell me how to fly through the air, but rather sit down in quietness with an inner receptivity, and perhaps like the Wright brothers, we would be led to go out in the shed and start working with the hands, and then gradually principle after principle would unfold, and the first thing you know, they're off the ground. Or Henry Ford in his little factory up there in now the Michigan Theater in Detroit. Now, the moment we open our consciousness, Thomas Edison had this habit. Always you'll see pictures of Thomas Edison standing this way. He was listening listening with his inner ear. And then all of a sudden, the next step of the invention or the principle would unfold. I suppose a musician does it, an artist does it, with that ear. And then all of a sudden, you may not do it out here, but inwardly, the ear is open and something unfolds. Now remember, it only unfolds for one reason. It's already there. It's already there. Every composition a composer can bring into existence is already in his consciousness. He merely tunes into his inner self and it comes out. Every picture that has ever been painted, every story that's ever been written, already exists in the consciousness of the individual. All they do is tune in. And from the depths of this infinite, invisible, of their own being, it begins to pour out. And always in an individual way. Now then, the secret of it is the realization that it is there. If you go off like those who search for the Holy Grail and travel all around the world, you come home broke in health and in purse, and then sink down in your front yard, look up and see it sitting in the apple tree. Ah, yes, the significance is it was always there while you were out chasing around the world. So it is, every bit of good is already established within our being, and it cannot be added to you, and God himself cannot give it to you. But you can open out from within, and it will flow. Now, the reason that in our Western world only inventors and artists and poets and painters and sculptors have known enough to go within and get silent and let that which already is flow out is that only they were in tune enough to learn that there's no place to go outside for these things, that the place to go is within. But this is an entirely different story in the Orient. In the Orient, where everybody who turns to the religious life is first of all taught meditation, they already know that you don't have to go anywhere for anything. You remember the first revelation that I had back in 1932 of an original nature was that which I am seeking, I am. And I have since found it to be true that as I learn not to depend on people out here, not to depend on circumstances or pull or influence, but to sit here and know the kingdom of God is, there it is again. The kingdom of God is within me. The kingdom of allness, fullness, completeness. And I meditate. Now, the Western world does not know that there is a depth greater than mind. It seeks its wisdom in the mind. Even many artists and inventors stick right here, hoping to bring the thing out of their mind, not realizing there is a greater depth than mind, and that depth is the soul or the spirit or consciousness. Use any of those terms you like. Soul, spirit, consciousness. It is a deeper degree of being than the mind. With the mind, you can think, but you can't think with the spirit or the soul or the consciousness. Now, the spirit, soul, or consciousness is the depth of your being, which is the storehouse. That's God's storehouse, is your soul, your mind, your consciousness, your spirit. That's God's storehouse. That's where everything is stored. Now, as you sit and the mind is relaxed, that begins to reveal itself to you through your mind. Your mind is an agency, an instrument telling you, revealing to you the things that are hidden deep down here within your soul. Now, those, and of course our work has been based, as you well know, on meditation. We began long years ago, way back in 1932, to seek out the secret of meditation, and it was in 1934 that I actually made the first contact consciously with the infinite invisible, and since then whatever has come to me from that depth of the within. Everything. I have asked nobody for anything. Always turned within, and believe me, the Father has sent me many instruments out here in this world. Many people have been blessings to me in many different ways, but they weren't sought after. The Father sent them. The seeking was of the Father within. Meditation. Learn to be still. And then don't be still and know that I am God, but be still and let the I within reveal that it is God. Don't make the declaration, I am God. It may separate you from God. Just be still and then hear the voice within say, yes, I am God. And you'll say, what, so close? Yes, the poet says, closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. And that's what you'll find out, that there is a God way down deep within our being. That is our soul, our spirit, our consciousness, and it is God. And as it unfolds through the mind, we become aware of its presence, we become aware of its activity, we become aware of the great truth it reveals to us, and then we become aware of it as a presence that goes before us to make the crooked places straight. No matter where we go in life, we find it has been one step ahead of us, preparing the way, opening doors for us, making people receptive to us, responsive to us, agreeable to us. I've even had it make a banker say yes for a loan. And that isn't easy. No, now only we are learning the art of meditation. We are learning how to be still, not to blank our minds. You can't blank your mind, but your mind will of itself get still. That's why we have these teachings on meditation. You see, if you try to blank your mind, 99 times out of 100 you'll fail completely, and the 100th time you might succeed and just do away with your mind, and some people have done that to their very great loss. Don't try to blank your mind, but if you follow the instructions on meditation that are in the Infinite Way writings, and you'll find there are about a dozen different methods of meditation shown, you will find the simplest one is to take the word God, or the word Christ, or the word Spirit, or Soul, or the word Tao, or the word Brahm, or the word and nothing finer than or Tao, or Brahm, or Christ, or Spirit. Anything that has God as its inner meaning. Some people respond to different words differently than others, and it doesn't make any difference, because a rose by any other name is just as sweet, and God, you'll find, is just as sweet with one name as with another. Whatever comes more natural to you, take that name and softly, without strain, gently, God, 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 Christ, God. Now, while you're doing that, if you're at the early stages of meditation, thoughts will go rampant through your mind. Every kind of thought. Fear thought, doubt thought, lustful thought, hateful thought, revenge thoughts, thoughts that you didn't really know you were capable of. Because some of our worst, the worst of ourselves is hidden down within us where we don't even know we're capable of it until we lose our temper. And then we find all of a sudden that we were much more evil than we thought we were. And so it is that we have repressed many of our thoughts and qualities so that we really don't know they're down there. But the minute you start meditating, the worst of you will come to the surface. And so, as it does, you will hold right here to God. God. Let these other thoughts keep going. Don't try to stop them. God. God. If you lose track of it, bring it back again gently. God. Never get angry. Never condemn yourself because you can't concentrate. Very few people in the Occidental world can. God. God. Or you might take a short quotation. God is love. God is love. Thy grace is my sufficiency. Thy grace. Just one of those. And as you keep that right there and let these other thoughts come and go and come and go, you will find that it may take a week, a month, or 6 months. But if you're patient with it and do it several times a day, eventually you'll settle right down and there'll be nothing left except your quotation. There won't be a single thought coming into your mind to disturb you. There'll be nothing there but thy grace, thy grace, the Christ within, the Father within. Whatever you are thinking will be the only thought in your mind. None of these other things will be there. But it will take a practice, it'll take a while to hold to it. Thy grace is my sufficiency, while all these other ugly thoughts are going through. Let them. Don't stop them. Let them have their fling, and then you'll find that you are starving them to death by ignoring them. And eventually they'll go. Then you can sit down and have any kind of meditation you like. Then you can take any subject you want. You can go and say, Father, tell me the secret about spiritual supply. And as you sit there with just the idea, speak, Lord, what is spiritual supply? All of a sudden it will begin to unfold within you. Or what is spiritual truth? What is spiritual health? What is spiritual law? What is spiritual life? You see, we don't know any of those things humanly. Nobody knows any. We only know about the physical aspect of existence, the material. But the Father within can reveal to us the spiritual things. Now, by the time your thought is settled down, you are in the position where you can be taught of God. You see, in the end, we're told that every knee must bend. We shall all be taught of God. The only way you can be taught of God is when you can be still here and let the teaching come from within your own being. You see, sometimes we think if we read other people's religious books that we're being taught of God. No. We're being taught about God. But we're only taught of God when you are so still that you can sit back and the Father really begins to reveal His presence, His power, His law within you to you. But you see, that is only when you have overcome the false prayer habits, the reaching out to God, the trying to get something from God, the hope that God is going to do something for you, which God isn't. God already is, and God is already performing its work in the world. God has been. Before Abraham was, I am. Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. You see, all those things reveal that you're not going to get God to do anything. God already is about the Father's business. God already is performing its function. God is already fulfilling itself. Our work is the tuning into that. Now, as we learn the is of God and open up our inner consciousness to letting the wisdom flow from within, it will operate in our outer world to bring harmony in body, business, being, and in every other direction. It doesn't mean that we will change everybody who comes into our world. Many of them we'll have to let go and watch them go out, because if they cannot make themselves adaptable to the Spirit, sooner or later we'll be led away from them. You just cannot change everybody in the world. You can't reform everybody. You can't make spiritual people out of everybody, because this isn't their time. This is our time, and we have been led to this moment. That is why, as you know, that there is no advertising of the infinite way. None. Why? Because I have nothing that will benefit anybody except those who come of their own accord. If I have to invite them, if I have to draw them in, I have nothing for them. They can't understand my language. But if they come, the Father drew them. And the Father drew them to receive something, and naturally they're going to receive it. Even if I say the wrong words, they're going to hear it the right way. Do you see that? The government is on His shoulder. And so it is that you learn in this that you can sit still without ever making a human move, without taking a human footstep, and be led every step of the way. Burroughs has it so wonderfully, "My own shall come to me, as the rivers flow to the sea, my own." I wait, I wait, I wait. I don't hurry and haste. I wait, and my own shall come to me. Why? Because there is a God. And God has ordained good to its creation. Who is its creation? 8th Romans says, to those who have the Spirit of God dwelling in them. Jesus in 15th John says, if you abide in me and let my word abide in you, then all of these good things, then do you bear fruit. And he tells you, the Father is only glorified in that ye bear rich fruit. So God is only glorified in our success. But then we have to open ourselves to God. First, know the nature of God as love, as is, so that you never try to run after God or get favors from God. Accept it. God already is. Good already is. Love already is. Harmony already is. Peace already is. And then be still and let it flow. Then in your prayers, never reach out to God for anything any more than reaching over here with your ears open. You wouldn't hear what I'm saying. Do you have ears and do not hear, the Master says? Do you have eyes and do not see? Certainly. Strain your ears all you like. You can't hear what I'm saying here tonight. What I'm saying tonight is absolute foolishness to human ears. Only those ears attuned to the Spirit can understand that what I'm saying is true. God is. And how do we know it? Be still, and you'll soon know it. Learn to be still. Learn to meditate. Learn to accept the fact that God is love, that God is the shepherd, that God leadeth me every moment of the way, that God maketh me to lie down in green pastures, and so learn an entirely new concept of prayer. And then when your prayer is no longer petition and no longer affirmation and no longer denial, but a beautiful silence, then you'll find that God fills that silence. We have a tape recording called The Thunder of Silence. The Thunder of Silence. And anyone who has ever heard the silence knows that it is a thunderous noise. But so gentle, so peaceful, so still, and yet so shocking. Now, Is there a part that we have to play in this? Yes, and it is a very important part. You see, in the material sense of life, the whole secret is getting. In the spiritual sense of life, the whole secret is giving. But many people have misunderstood that and thought, well, does that mean if I give a lot of money to my church, or if I tithe, or if I give to charity, or... No, that isn't what it means at all. That isn't giving, necessarily. Can be sometimes, but that isn't at all what it means. It means giving the thing that is nearest and dearest and closest to you. In the case of a Hebrew prophet, he had to offer up his son. Now I'm going to tell you what we have to give up. We have to give up our concepts of God and man. We have to sacrifice everything we believe about each other. We have to be willing to give up the belief that Jesus is good. That's a hard sacrifice. We have to give up the belief that Stalin is bad. We have to give up the belief that this one is good and this one is bad. We have to give up the thing that is hardest for us to give up, and that's our concepts of God and man. We have for so many years entertained what we think is the truth about God and man, and even though it's done us no good, we still cling to it, and we insist this one's good and this one's bad and this one's... No, it isn't going to work out that way. Only through sacrifice do we find God. But the Hebrews sacrificed. Sure, they sacrificed lambs, they sacrificed doves, they sacrificed 10% of their income, but the Master told them that that would do them no good, that God had no pleasure in that kind of sacrifice. And so it is today. Many people believe that in giving up their money or giving up this or that, the other, that they are pleasing God. There is no way to please God by giving up anything but our judgments of each other, our hates and loves, until we come to the place where we can say, there is but one good, the Father in heaven. Until we come to the place where we can say, God is the soul of every individual. In this room, sure. In the prison, yes. In Russia, yes. Black, yes. White, yes. Yellow, yes. Red, yes. God is the soul of every individual being. And then see no exception to that. See no exception to it if we see them robbing a bank. Still stand on God is the soul of every individual. Judge not. You go through the Master's teaching carefully and see if this isn't true. He didn't judge the adulterous woman. He didn't judge the thief on the cross. He didn't judge the boy born blind or his parents. He never judged, and he didn't even judge himself to be good. Not even while he was healing multitudes and feeding multitudes. He didn't judge himself to be good. And nowhere do you find a record in there of, even when Peter recognized him as the Christ, he didn't give Peter the credit. He said, flesh and blood hath not taught you that. Only the Father within you could reveal to you. He didn't even give Peter credit for recognizing his own Christhood. No. Only the Father could give that to me. And so, you see, there is where we come into danger. Every once in a while, somebody will write me a letter of how much studying they've done and how great their understanding is, but the demonstration doesn't come. And I write back, yes, but you see, you missed the whole point. You really thought you had an understanding. Where'd you get it? I thought God alone was mind. If that is true, then God alone had understanding, and you've just been absorbing something that you thought was yours. As long as you hold to the fact that you have understanding, you are never going to do healing work. Nor are you going to be healed unless somebody has a greater realization than you have. Why? Because it isn't true that you have understanding. And all that you have ever learned isn't going to increase your understanding one bit. God alone is good. God alone is the intelligence of this universe, and if there is any understanding, it's the understanding of God. We, of our own selves, with all the truth we can learn in all the books, couldn't heal a headache. But the power of God operating in our consciousness can lift the dead. But it's the power of God. It isn't your understanding or my understanding. There is no such thing as your understanding or mine any more than there is such a thing as your goodness or my goodness, or your health or my health. Just try to claim health for yourself and see what happens someday. It isn't true. God is the soul of our being. God is the soul of this universe. God is the soul of the animal world, the vegetable world, the mineral world, of every bit of the world. And as you recognize that fact, you will find that truth reflected back to you in your experience. But how do we know that this is true? There's only one way we know it's true, and that is when it tells us so within our own being, and it only tells us so when we can be still, when we can be silent, when we can listen for that still small voice. Then the voice uttereth itself within us. And then you see, when the word comes within us, it will still the waves. Oh yes, it will open the Red Sea. Be assured of this, that Moses didn't open the Red Sea, and be sure of this, that Jesus didn't multiply loaves and fishes. On and on. They opened their consciousness and let the power of God come through, and the power of God did it. But they first made of themselves, I can of my own self do nothing. Thank you, Father. If I speak of myself, I speak a lie. So if I say I have understanding, I'm a liar. Never forget that. We have no understanding, but open the mouth, we're told. Open the mouth, Moses is told, and God will put the words on your lips. And so it is with us. We open the mouth, have an inner listening ear, and these words come rolling out. But God has to put them there, because if God doesn't put them there, they are not registering within you. They would just be my word to you. And that would be without power. It is only in proportion as it is the Word of God flowing through that you can say within yourself or feel, this is truth. This is it. This is the revelation of God. And you see, then we become instruments in this ministry. But so are we instruments, whether we are artists, painters, sculptors, musicians. We are also instruments for the cosmic consciousness, for the divine consciousness to flow through. We are instruments for its use. The heavens declare the glory of God. The earth showeth forth his handiwork. Every individual, whether he writes music, writes poetry, builds bridges, builds houses, whatever he does is showing forth God's glory. And the minute he doesn't realize that he's showing forth God's glory, his abilities become limited, finite, depending only on his education or his own ability. It is very much like Mr. Harris, the man who designed the bridge, Golden Gate Bridge. Everybody in the world agreed that that couldn't be done. The tides were this and the tides were that and this was that. It couldn't be done. And here was a man of prayer. And he worked with prayer, and he worked with prayer, and pretty soon he came up with a principle that enabled him to design the Golden Gate Bridge